Hello everyone, it's Rebecca with the Bible Art Journaling Challenge. I'm going to use Archival ink and make my own stencil mask so that I can create in my Bible today, and I want to show you how to do it. I'm in Psalms 34 verse 8, and I just want to tell you that if you don't have the supplies that I use, it's okay. You can do whatever you want. You can create what I have, or you can do your own thing. Right here, I'm going to use a die cutting machine, and basically what this is you put a plate on the bottom, you put your die down, and then, depending on how thick your die is, mine is really thick, so I'm not going to have a platform in between, and I'm just going to put a plate over top of whatever it is that I'm going to cut, and it will just crank straight through and cut those shapes out. And in this case, I've got some alphabet dies. I've got two of them you'll see me using, and one's got alphabet letters, another one has a really good and sign, which I'm going to use. And so I've used cardboard on this one. This steel will cut through metal, all sorts of surfaces, fabric, so the options are pretty limitless with a machine like this. But if you don't have something like this, just print some lettering out on your computer paper and use something like that. Cut it out with an X-Acto knife, do whatever. If you want to follow along, just come up and be creative and think of new ideas on how to do this so that you can join me, and I'd love to have you do that. So here you see I've got all of the letters and symbols that I need, and I've got a mini blending tool. I'm not going to use the one you saw, which is the rectangular large size one. I'm going to use this mini round one because the edges being round are much easier to use, and I want to blend on the Archival ink, which, because it is an oil-based permanent ink, it does tend to stick to your page a little bit more, so it's really important that you use something to blend it with that doesn't have any sharp edges around it, and then it will go on much easier for you and you'll like the end result a lot better. So I'm going to use some repositionable tape to put that all down, and then just measure it to make sure that I have everything in line the way I want. And I tend to go from the outside, then do some middle ones, and then fill everything in, and that way I get everything evenly spaced the way I want it. Psalm 34 says in verse 8, "O taste and see that the Lord is good. How blessed is the man who takes refuge in him." Psalm 34 was written at a time when King David was actually running from Saul, the king who had actually put out a death wish on him, had threatened to kill him, and was definitely serious about it. And you find that David is saying, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good." He was taking time in the midst of tragedy and difficulty and running when he had actually been anointed to be king. He was running from the then king. It was not an easy time in his life, and yet he was taking time to ponder the goodness of the Lord. I think we can learn something from him in this. It is so good to taste and see how good he is, to actually taste him, to see him, take our senses and fill in the story of how good God is in every aspect of our life and in every season. If you look at 1 Samuel chapter 21, it tells the story of what was going on when David wrote this story. He wasn't king then, but this is the story that you find over in 1 Samuel 21 that caused him to write Psalm 34. So it's really good. So here you see I'm just taking Archival ink, putting some on my blending foam, and then I'm tapping it onto the card on the left so that I don't have any massive amounts of ink sitting there. And you'll notice that I didn't actually prep my page with anything to prevent it from bleeding through. My thought on this is that the less I do, the more chance I have of it not bleeding through. So as you can see on the very tip edges, there's a little bit darker color, and that is where the Bible page has started to soak a bit of color in. But it's still in the middle center of the paper. So when I flip it over, you won't actually see it having bled all the way through. You'll see that it bled through to the middle of the page, so to speak. And this is really simple, straightforward stuff. you just blend it on. Don't have a heavy hand, have a light hand, because you can always go in and add more later. And I'm using this cleaner for my stamps, an all-purpose cleaner that I've got, and it just wipes off everything, all these oil-based things, right off of your mat. And you'll notice that I peeled this repositionable tape back off with these masks, and I was just using the old trick of having one sticky surface peeling up the sticky of another, and it really wasn't working for me perfectly well. And so as I got towards the end, I came up with another solution, which was to use my micropore surgical tape, wrap it around my finger with the sticky side out, and just use that really gently. And I think this solution worked really well for me. You can try out different things and see what works. Let me know in the comments if you've got other ideas, and we're always better when we're together on this. I think that it turned out great. It's a nice reminder for me of the importance of soaking in the wonderful things of God in all seasons. And you can see here that I prepped the page of that far right one, and it really doesn't look much different. So this worked out really well. And to finish things off, I used this blue micron pen to underline my verse. So thank you so much for joining me today. It was a bit shorter than I usually have, but make sure and come and visit me on my blog and hang out with me. Give me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Give me a thumbs up if you're on my YouTube channel. And I will really look forward to having you join me in the challenge. If you haven't yet, just head over to my blog and look for the word challenge in my top navigation, and you can find a full archive of all of my videos there, and I'll look forward to seeing you there. It's your turn to create, and I can't wait to see what you do. See you very soon.